positions out at Sunnyvale. We started to get some command centers from General Pete. General Pete retired, and I went into his position, and we continued with that. I took over in, I guess it was the 1st of April. 1st of April in 1990, and Pete was a great leader and had really prepared the way for this transition, and we were very close, so there was not a bump in the road as we did the transition. But on the 2nd of August, Saddam Hussein decided to do something. He got in the job in April, and on the 2nd of August, Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait. He wanted the oil fields down there. And we immediately started what we call Desert Shield. He invaded on the 2nd of August. On the 7th of August, U.S. troops started pouring into Saudi Arabia. We finally built up to about 550,000 troops out there, mostly U.S., but we have 34 other nations with us in that. In January 1991, we did our first offensive operations in the country. Had a bunch of helicopters, a half a dozen helicopters, and they crossed the border into Iraq and cut comm lines and aircraft warning radars. And they flew in with helicopters using GPS duct taped to the tops of their helicopters. They had a turn that they had to make their final run for these combat ops. And not trusting GPS, they had these light sticks that you break or shave and throw out the window and throw out the light sticks. And then they used GPS to try and find their way home, and lo and behold, they followed GPS right to where they had dropped those light sticks. And that impressed the Army. And as General Pete says, Roland Ellis, prior to that time, had gone out, an Army Space Commander, had gone out to Fort Carson with a bunch of GPS sets. If I had gone out there in an Air Force blue uniform, they'd show me the BX. But Roland, they took him into their confidence, and he actually demonstrated what GPS could do for them. And so the Army was, as General Pete says, the leader in GPS in that war. We had 16 satellites on orbit. The normal constellation is 24. And so we did the best we could with those 16 satellites, and the Army was the biggest user of them. We had money in our budget for 27,000 GPS sets of airplanes. We had about 2 dozen. The Air Force didn't believe it would ever work, and so they didn't want to waste time and money putting them in at that time. So the Army was the main user. They had sluggers they put in their pants pockets. Their moms and dads would buy them commercial with gelling sets, because they were smaller and they could put in their pockets with them. So GPS was a great factor in that war. It allowed Schwarzkopf to do his left hook. He went around Saddam's armies out in the desert. They called it a featureless desert out there. It sure was. And because he had GPS, he knew where he was, he knew where the enemy was, and he could maneuver around them and won that war in 100 hours. So GPS was really a factor in that particular war. Communications. 90% of the comm in Iraq was through satellites. Not only Milsats, but commercial satellites also. Even the Russians offered us some comm in that war, but if you wanted to talk, you talked through a satellite. DMSP was our weather satellite, and everybody thought this was desert warfare out there, and so nobody worried about bringing DSPs. Well, the first day of the airstrikes in country was totally socked in, totally cloudy. There was a lot of rain, a lot of dust storms, and needed DMSP predictions, weather satellite predictions, so that you could tell what the weather was going to be in your target area and determine which weapons to use. Well, there's a thing called the tip fiddle, and it's I can't remember the acronym, time, phase, force deployment list, where they've got a preset list where they determine what's going to go in the country in terms of supplies. Well, we had 33 weather vans, DMSP weather satellite vans. The tip fiddle allowed one into country. And so we had to get more vans out there for DMSP, the weather satellite. And Roland Ellis, again, kludged up, went to Radio Shack, Army Space Command, and kludged up sets that would receive the DMSP satellite data. Ron Yates of the Air Force got some sets out there pretty soon. But we're just not prepared to use DSP the way we should. DMSP the way we should. The most famous bird that we had in the space war is DSP, or missile warning satellites. We had 5 of these on orbit. Saddam was launching his Scud missiles. He launched 86 of those Scud missiles during the war. We never missed a one. Space Command and the DSP satellites picked up every single one of those launches. We had optimized our satellites, 5 on orbit, 2 of them were walking wounded, not as good as the others. We put those over Russia and China and worried about the nuclear threat there because it was not very preeminent at that time. We put 3 birds on Iraq, 1 on the east, 1 on the west, and 1 right down the gun barrel, and we saw every one of those missiles launched. We got them at liftoff. We were able to tell about where we were going to hit, and then we transmitted that information direct to the troops. We had a telephone of a captain sitting down in the centers that General Pete had prepared us for before the war started, so we were all set to go. The captain didn't have to dial anything. He would pick up the phone and he would yell Scud alert. And Schwarzkopf's headquarters got that immediately. CNN was there. And we would watch on CNN if the sirens went out. And if the sirens didn't go off, we'd pick up the phone again and say, hey guys, the Scud is coming. You know, get your dang sirens on. Did not miss a single Scud. However, there was not much we could do about it except duck. Because we had the Army Patriot missiles there. They were about 30% effective, if I recall, during that war. Psychologically, they were great. The Israelis would have entered that war and busted up our coalition if we had not given the Patriots to give the people confidence that we were doing something. But we couldn't shoot down too many of those missiles the way we should be able to with our systems today. That was the war. It ended in 100 hours. We cleaned it up and then went on from there. But space really supported the troops for the first time in the war. Some people call it the first space war. I do not. The first space war will be when we actually have offensive and defensive operations in the realm of space, and that hasn't happened yet. But that was the first war where space really came down and got known to the troops and was helpful.